The grand hall of the Valdorian Empire stretched for miles beneath a crystal dome that showed the stars of 3 galaxy arms. Admiral Kethvar stood before the High Council, his dark blue skin gleaming under the artificial lights. His forearms were crossed in the traditional pose of respect, but his eyes showed boredom. "Another message from the Outer Rim," announced Council Leader Vexistari, her voice echoing through the vast chamber. "Some backwater species wants to talk." The message played on the main screen. It was simple and short. A bipedal creature with pale skin and strange fur on its head spoke in a basic galactic tongue. "We are here. We wish to talk. Our world is called Earth. We are humans." Several council members laughed. The creature looked so primitive. It had only 2 arms, 2 legs, and seemed fragile. Its world was a small blue-green ball orbiting a yellow star in an empty part of space. "They don't even have faster-than-light travel," said Admiral Kethvar, checking his datapad. "Their entire solar system has fewer resources than our smallest mining station." "Why are we wasting time on this?" Council Leader Vextari nodded. "The Empire spans 1,000 worlds. We have bigger problems. The rebellion on Zirion Prime needs attention. The Andromeda expansion requires more ships. These humans can wait. Or better yet," suggested Admiral Kethvar, "we can ignore them completely. What can they possibly offer us? They're stuck in one tiny solar system." The Council agreed. They had more important things to do than talk to primitive mammals who could barely leave their own world. The Valdorian Empire had conquered species far more advanced than these humans. Their technology was thousands of years ahead of anything these creatures could imagine. 3 months passed. The Empire forgot about the human message. They were busy crushing a rebellion on 7 worlds and planning new conquests. The humans sent 2 more messages, but the Council deleted them without watching. Then Admiral Kethvar received a strange report. 3 scout ships had been sent to map the Outer Rim territories. They had entered the human solar system and simply vanished. No distress signals, no wreckage, no trace of what happened to them. "Equipment failure," decided the Admiral. "Those old scout ships break down all the time. Send a maintenance report to the shipyards." His aide, a young officer named Zeklon, looked worried. "Sir, the ships were new." "They had full crews. Shouldn't we investigate?" Admiral Kethvar waved his forearms dismissively. "Investigate what? Empty space? These humans don't even have space weapons. Our scouts probably had engine problems and are limping home. They'll show up eventually, but the ships never came back. 3 more scout vessels were sent to find them. These ships also vanished without a trace." This time Admiral Kethvar paid attention. "Something is wrong," he told the High Council. 6 ships lost in the same area. That's not equipment failure." Council Leader Vexitari studied the star charts. The human solar system looked completely empty except for 1 small world and a few rocky planets. "Maybe there's a spatial anomaly. A black hole or gravity well we didn't detect." "The charts show nothing dangerous," replied Admiral Kethvar. "Just that little blue world and some asteroids." "But 6 ships don't just disappear." The Council debated for hours. Some members wanted to send a battle fleet to investigate. Others thought it was a waste of resources. A few suggested sending a diplomatic ship to actually talk to the humans. "Diplomacy?" Admiral Kethvar laughed. "With primitives who can't even travel between stars? If something destroyed our ships, we destroy it back. That's how the Empire works." Council Leader Vextari made the final decision. "Send a contact fleet. 50 ships should be enough to handle any problem. If these humans are hiding something dangerous, we'll find it and remove it. If they're innocent, we'll establish Imperial rule and move on." Admiral Kethvar smiled. 50 ships was overkill for dealing with primitives, but he liked overkill. "I'll lead the fleet myself. It's been too long since I had a good conquest." The fleet assembled at the edge of Valdorian space. 50 of the Empire's finest warships, each one capable of destroying a planet. Admiral Kethvar's flagship alone carried enough firepower to level a continent. The crews were excited. This would be an easy victory against weak enemies. As they prepared to leave, another message arrived from the humans. This time it was different. The same creature appeared on screen, but his expression was serious. "We know you lost ships in our space. We tried to warn you away. Please do not send more. We do not want conflict." The bridge crew laughed. Admiral Kethvar turned to his weapons officer. "Did this primitive just threaten the Valdorian Empire?" "It sounded like a warning, sir," the officer replied, trying not to smile. "A warning," the Admiral repeated slowly. "From a species that has never left their own solar system. from creatures who use chemical rockets to reach their own moon. They're warning us! The entire bridge erupted in laughter. Even the usually serious communications officer was grinning. The idea that these backward humans could threaten the mighty Valdorian Empire was absurd. Record a reply, ordered Admiral Kethvar. Tell them the Valdorian Empire goes where it wants, when it wants. Tell them we're coming to establish imperial rule over their pathetic little world. Tell them resistance is futile. The message was sent. The fleet departed for human space. During the journey, Admiral Kethvar studied everything the Empire knew about humans. It wasn't much. They were a young species only recently discovered. Their technology was primitive. They used fossil fuels for energy and metal ships for space travel. They had never been contacted by any other species before the Empire found them. They're like children playing with toys, he told his officers during a briefing. Dangerous children, maybe, if they somehow destroyed our scouts. But still just children. One demonstration of Imperial power and they'll surrender immediately. His weapons officer raised a concern. Sir, how did they destroy 6 ships without any visible technology? Our scouts found no weapons platforms, no defense grids, nothing. Admiral Kethvar considered this. Maybe they have hidden bases on asteroids. Or primitive nuclear weapons. Nothing our shields can't handle. These creatures probably got lucky with our scouts. The fleet reached human space after 2 weeks of travel. The solar system looked exactly as the charts described. One small blue world, a few rocky planets, some gas giants, and many asteroids. No signs of advanced technology anywhere. Scan for hidden bases, ordered Admiral Kethvar. Check every asteroid, every moon. Find where they're hiding their weapons. The scans found nothing. The human world had some small orbital stations and a few satellites, but nothing that could threaten a starship. The rest of the solar system was empty. Maybe our scouts had accidents, suggested the tactical officer. Space is dangerous. Engine failures, cosmic radiation, asteroid impacts. Admiral Kethvar wasn't convinced. 6 ships don't have accidents in the same place. But looking at this peaceful system, he couldn't see any threat. Just a primitive world full of backward creatures who thought they could warn away the Valdorian Empire. Take us to their planet, he commanded. It's time to show these humans what happens when you threaten the Empire. Prepare the demonstration bombardment. We'll destroy their moon to show them our power. Then they'll surrender like all the others. The fleet moved toward Earth, weapons charging, completely confident in their superior technology and firepower. Admiral Kethvar had conquered 47 worlds in his career. This would be number 48, and probably the easiest yet. He had no idea that he was flying into the most carefully prepared trap in galactic history. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth grow larger on the main screen. The blue and green planet looked peaceful and defenseless. No massive orbital weapons, no fleets of warships, just a few small space stations that his sensors could barely detect. Sir, reported his tactical officer, we're detecting minimal technology, some basic satellites, a few tiny orbital platforms. Nothing that could threaten us. The Admiral smiled with satisfaction. 50 Valdorian warships against a handful of primitive space stations. This would be over quickly. Open a channel to the planet, he ordered. Let's get this conquest started. A few seconds later, the communication screen activated. An elderly human appeared, sitting in what looked like a simple room. He had gray hair on his head and wore plain clothes. His face was calm and friendly. I am Chen Wei, the human said in perfect galactic standard. I represent Earth in diplomatic matters. Welcome to our solar system, though I wish you had listened to our warnings. Admiral Kethvar was surprised. The humans spoke their language better than many Imperial citizens, but that didn't matter. Primitives sometimes learned languages quickly when they wanted to surrender. I am Admiral Kethvar of the Valdorian Imperial Fleet, he announced in his most commanding voice. By the authority of the Valdorian Empire, I order you to surrender your world and all its resources. Submit to Imperial rule and your people will be allowed to live as slaves. Resist and we will destroy your entire species. Chen Wei listened patiently, then sighed. Admiral, we tried to warn your people away. We sent 3 messages asking you not to come here. We really didn't want this to happen. Want what to happen? Laughed the Admiral. Your surrender? It's inevitable. Look at your pathetic defenses. A few tiny stations against 50 Imperial warships. This isn't even a fair fight. No, Chen Wei said quietly. It really isn't. Something in the human's tone made Admiral Kethvar pause. There was no fear in Chen Wei's voice, no panic. Just sadness, like someone watching a preventable tragedy unfold. Perhaps you don't understand the situation, the Admiral continued. Let me demonstrate Imperial power. Watch as we destroy your moon. Then you'll see that resistance is futile. He turned to his weapons officer. Target their moon. Full power demonstration. Blow a crater big enough to see from their planet. Yes, sir, the officer replied, working his controls. Main cannons charging. Target locked. Firing in 3, 2, 1. Firing now. The massive energy beams launched from the Imperial flagship, enough power to crack a small moonshot toward Earth's satellite. Admiral Kethvar watched with satisfaction, waiting to see the explosion that would convince these humans to surrender. The beams simply vanished. What? The Admiral stared at the screen. Where did our weapons fire go? Sir, his weapons officer said, voice shaking. The energy beams just disappeared. No impact, no explosion, nothing. They're gone. Impossible, snapped Admiral Kethvar. Check your instruments. Run diagnostics. Weapons don't just vanish. While his crew frantically checked their systems, Chen Wei spoke again from the communication screen. We really hoped you would turn around and leave. We tried to warn you, but you came here with weapons charged and threats ready. That was very unwise. Are you threatening us? Demanded the Admiral. One primitive world against 50 Imperial warships. Your technology is thousands of years behind ours. Our technology, Chen Wei said with a small smile, is not what you think it is. Suddenly, the space around Earth began to shimmer. The empty black void rippled like water, revealing structures that had been hidden. Massive defensive platforms materialized, each one larger than Admiral Kethvar's flagship. Energy grids connected them in patterns that hurt to look at. Weapon systems that defied easy description pointed toward the Imperial fleet. But that wasn't the terrifying part. The terrifying part was that Admiral Kethvar's instruments hadn't detected any of it. Whatever technology the humans used to hide their defenses was beyond Imperial understanding. Impressive, he admitted, trying to keep his voice steady. Hidden defense platforms. Very clever. But you're still outnumbered. 50 ships against how many platforms? 20, 30? Admiral, Chen Wei said gently. You're not paying attention. Look at your own ships. Confused, Admiral Kethvar turned to his tactical display. The 50 ships of his fleet were still in formation, exactly where they should be. Everything looked normal. Then his tactical officer spoke in a terrified whisper. Sir, I'm not reading any of our ships as armed. According to sensors, none of our weapons are functional. None of our engines are responding. We're just floating here. Admiral Kethvar felt his blood turn cold. That's impossible. Run a full system diagnostic. Check everything. As his crew worked frantically, more reports came in from other ships in the fleet. The same story everywhere. Weapons offline. Engines dead. Life support functioning, but nothing else working. 50 of the Empire's finest warships had become helpless metal containers floating in space. How? He whispered. Chen Wei heard him. We've been preparing for visitors like you for a very long time, Admiral. We knew someone would eventually find us and assume we were weak. We prepared for that day. You did this somehow, Admiral Kethvar accused. Some kind of weapon we don't understand. But it won't last. Imperial technology is too advanced for primitives to interfere with permanently. Admiral, Chen Wei said with infinite patience, we need to discuss something important. Your ships didn't malfunction. We turned them off. All of them. At the same time. And we did it using technology that your people helped us build. The words didn't make sense. That's impossible. We've never met your species before today, haven't you? Chen Wei asked. Admiral, where do you think your empire gets its computer components? Your communication systems? Your navigation computers? The Valdorian Empire is very large, but you buy technology from many species, including some you've never bothered to identify properly. The truth hit Admiral Kethvar like a physical blow. The Empire did buy components from hundreds of different species across the galaxy. Small companies, mining operations, tech manufacturers. They never investigated every supplier carefully. As long as the parts worked and were cheap, they bought them. For the past 50 years, Chen Wei continued, human companies have been selling you computer components. Very good components. So good that you put them in everything. Your ships, your weapons, your communication systems. All of it running on technology we designed and built. No, Admiral Kethvar said weakly. Imperial security would have detected that. Our systems are too well protected. Your security systems, Chen Wei said sadly, are running on our computers too. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of life support. Admiral Kethavar stared at the screen, finally understanding. The humans hadn't attacked his fleet. They had simply turned off their own technology that the Empire had been using for decades. You planned this, he said. All of it. You wanted us to find you. No, Admiral. We hoped you would leave us alone. But we prepared for the possibility that someone like you would come with weapons and threats. We prepared very carefully. Admiral Kethavar's communications officer suddenly spoke up. Sir, I'm getting reports from Imperial Command. Ships throughout the Empire are experiencing system failures. Weapons offline, engines dead. The same problems we're having. How far? Asked the Admiral, though he already knew the answer would be terrible. All of them, sir. Every Imperial ship station and facility within 100 light years. Everything is shutting down. Chen Wei's voice was gentle but firm. Admiral Kethavar, the Valdorian Empire is now completely helpless. Your fleets can't move. Your weapons can't fire. Your communication systems work only because we allow them to. We control everything. This is an act of war, Admiral Kethavar said desperately. The Empire will never surrender to primitives. Admiral, Chen Wei replied, the Empire surrendered 50 years ago when you started buying our technology. You just didn't know it yet. And frankly, calling us primitives while your entire civilization depends on our computers seems a bit silly. The Admiral slumped in his command chair, defeated. What do you want? Resources? Territory? Tribute? We want, said Chen Wei, to have a conversation. The one we tried to start months ago before you decided to threaten us, though I'm afraid the terms have changed somewhat. Admiral Kethavar sat in his command chair, staring at the communication screen where Chen Wei waited patiently. Around him, his bridge crew worked frantically to restore their ship's systems. Nothing responded. Weapons, engines, navigation, everything was dead except life support and communications. How is this possible? He asked Chen Wei. Even if you sold us computer components, our engineers would have found hidden programs. Imperial security is the best in the galaxy. Chen Wei smiled sadly. Admiral, your engineers did find hidden programs. Thousands of them. But they thought they were security features. Antivirus protection. System optimization routines. Your people actually praised our components for being so well protected against tampering. The Admiral felt sick. You hid weapons inside security programs. Not weapons, Chen Wei corrected. Control systems. Every computer component we sold you had tiny programs that could take control if needed. But they never activated unless someone threatened us with violence. Your people have been carrying our off switches for 50 years without knowing it. Admiral Kethavar's tactical officer looked up from his console, face pale. Sir, I'm detecting movement throughout the solar system. Objects approaching from all directions. What kind of objects? Demanded the Admiral. Unknown, sir. They're small, moving fast, and there are millions of them. On the main screen, space began to fill with tiny glints of reflected light. They moved like a swarm of insects flowing around the disabled Imperial ships. As they got closer, Admiral Kethavar could see they were machines. Sleek, silvery devices no bigger than a person's hand. What are those things? He asked Chen Wei. Maintenance drones, the human replied. They're going to fix your ships. Fix them? Admiral Kethavar was confused. Why would you repair our weapons? We're not repairing your weapons, Chen Wei explained. We're upgrading your ships, making them better, more efficient, safer for your crews. The Admiral watched in horror as the small machines swarmed over his flagship. They moved through the hull like it was liquid, appearing inside closed rooms and sealed compartments. His crew backed away from them in fear, but the machines ignored the people completely. They're inside the ship, shouted his security chief. How did they get through our armor? Chen Wei heard the question. Nanotechnology, Admiral. Those machines are smaller than your instruments can properly detect. They've been quietly studying your ship since you entered our solar system. Now they know exactly how to improve them. Improve them how? Admiral Kethavar demanded. Well, your engines are terribly inefficient. We're fixing that. Your weapon systems are dangerous to your own crews. Lots of radiation leakage. We're fixing that too. Your life support systems waste enormous amounts of energy. We're making them better. As the Admiral watched, his ship's status displays began changing. Engine efficiency numbers climbed higher than he'd ever seen. Weapon power readings increased dramatically. Life support systems showed perfect optimization. By every measure, his ship was becoming more powerful than ever before, but none of it responded to his commands. The improvements look good, Chen Wei continued. But there's one small change we had to make. All your ship's systems now answer to us. Your crews are safe and comfortable, but they can't operate any of the controls. Admiral Kethvar's communications officer suddenly straightened. Sir, I'm receiving a signal from Captain Zorkon on the destroyer Vengeance. He says his ship is working perfectly, but it won't obey any of his orders. His computer is playing human music and responding to voice commands in their language. More reports flooded in from across the fleet. Every ship was being upgraded by the swarms of tiny machines. Every ship was becoming more powerful than before, and every ship now belonged to the humans. This is impossible, Admiral Kethvar said. Your technology can't be this advanced. You're a primitive species that just learned to travel in space. Chen Wei looked amused. Admiral, who told you we just learned space travel? Our intelligence reports. Our surveys. You've never left your solar system. We've never left openly, Chen Wei corrected. But we've been exploring the galaxy for over 100 years. Those tiny machines upgrading your ships? We've been seeding them throughout Imperial space for decades. They're in your computers, your food supplies, your water systems, even your clothes. They've been watching, learning, and waiting. The Admiral felt his world crashing down around him. You've been spying on us for decades. Studying you, Chen Wei said gently. We wanted to understand what kind of species you were before we made contact. We hoped you would be peaceful. We prepared in case you weren't. Admiral Kethvar's aide rushed to his side. Sir, we're getting emergency transmissions from Imperial Command. They're reporting system failures across the entire Empire. Not just ships, planets, space stations, everything. The capital world has gone dark. How far does this reach? The Admiral asked weakly. According to the reports, every Imperial installation within 100 light-years is shut down. But they're not destroyed. Everything still works, but it doesn't obey Imperial commands anymore. Chen Wei nodded. We had to be thorough, Admiral. Your Empire has a habit of sending reinforcements when things don't go as planned. We couldn't risk you calling for help and starting a larger war. You've conquered the entire Empire, Admiral Kethvar whispered, without firing a shot. Conquered is the wrong word, Chen Wei replied. We've simply taken administrative control. Your people are safe. Your worlds are functioning normally. But they're not under Imperial rule anymore. The Admiral tried to understand the scope of what had happened. 100 light-years of Imperial space, thousands of worlds, millions of ships, billions of people, all of it under human control now. What about the species you conquered? He asked. The 1,000 worlds under Imperial rule? Oh, them, Chen Wei said with a smile. They're getting a different message right now. Would you like to hear it? Before Admiral Kethvar could respond, his communication system activated on its own. A new voice spoke, young, cheerful, unmistakably human. Attention all former Imperial territories. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Liberation Fleet. Effective immediately, you are free from Valdorian rule. Your worlds belong to you again. Your resources are your own. Your people can govern themselves however they choose. The message continued. We apologize for the previous management. They were not very good at their job. If you need assistance rebuilding or if anyone tries to bully you, just ask. We'll be happy to help. Remember, bullies only win when good people do nothing. Admiral Kethvar stared at the screen. You're freeing our conquered territories? Of course, Chen Wei said. The Valdorian Empire was built on conquest and slavery. We don't approve of that. So we're dissolving the Empire and giving everyone their freedom back. But that's thousands of worlds, millions of people. How can you control such a vast area? Chen Wei's expression grew serious. Admiral, we're not trying to control anyone. That was your mistake. We're just making sure no one can hurt innocent people anymore. Your empire was a threat to peace and freedom in this galaxy. Now it's not. The Admiral's tactical officer spoke up again. Sir, I'm detecting more ships entering the system. Thousands of them. They appear to be heading for Imperial space. Admiral Kethvar looked at the sensor readings. Ships from dozens of different species, all moving toward former Imperial territories. Who are they? The people you conquered, Chen Wei explained. They're going home. We sent them transportation and told them their worlds were free. Many of them want to rebuild what the Empire destroyed. And if they want revenge against us? Chen Wei's face became stern. Then we'll stop them. We don't allow revenge wars any more than we allow conquest wars. Everyone gets to live in peace now, including Valdorians. But they have to actually live in peace. Admiral Kethavar realized the full scope of what had happened. The humans hadn't just defeated the Empire. They had reorganized an entire section of the galaxy. And they had done it all while calling it pest control. "What happens to us?" he asked quietly. "That depends," Chen Wei replied, "on whether you want to learn how to be better people." Emperor Valdos the Magnificent sat on his crystal throne in the heart of the imperial capital, staring at reports that made no sense. His massive palace, built from the treasures of 1,000 conquered worlds, felt strangely quiet. The usual bustle of servants and officials had stopped. "Read it again," he commanded his aide, a trembling young Valdorian named Zektol. "Your Majesty," Zektol said with a shaking voice, "every fleet in the Empire has gone silent. Every planetary defense grid is offline. Every space station reports total system failure, but they're all still there. Nothing has been destroyed." Emperor Valdos had ruled the galaxy's largest empire for 30 years. He had crushed rebellions, conquered new worlds, and built a civilization that spanned 3 galaxy arms. Nothing like this had ever happened before. "Have you contacted Admiral Kethavar's fleet?" he asked. "We tried, Your Majesty. The communication went through, but the Admiral says his ships don't obey his commands anymore. He says the humans have taken control of everything." "Humans?" Emperor Valdos had never heard the word before. "What are humans?" Zektol consulted his datapad. "A primitive species from the Outer Rim, Your Majesty. They were discovered recently. Admiral Kethavar was sent to establish imperial rule over their world. And these primitives defeated 50 imperial warships?" "Not defeated, Your Majesty, captured all of them. Without firing a shot." Emperor Valdos stood up from his throne, his impressive height making him tower over his aide. "That's impossible. Bring me the High Council, immediately." Within minutes, the surviving members of the High Council gathered in the throne room. Many looked confused and frightened. Council leader Vextari stepped forward. "Your Majesty, we have a serious problem. These humans have somehow taken control of our technology. Every computer system in the Empire is compromised." "How is that possible?" demanded the Emperor. "Our security is perfect. Our technology is the most advanced in the galaxy." "Your Majesty," said Science Advisor Kulmeth nervously, "it appears these humans have been selling us computer components for decades. Components that contained hidden control programs." Emperor Valdos felt rage building inside him. "You're telling me that primitives have been infiltrating our empire for decades and nobody noticed?" "They weren't primitives, Your Majesty," Kulmeth continued. "Our investigation shows they've been far more advanced than we realized. They've been pretending to be a young species while secretly spreading their technology throughout our space." "Then we fight back," the Emperor declared. "Mobilize our ground forces. Use weapons that don't depend on computers. Show these humans what happens when they challenge the Valdorian Empire." General Voxmar, commander of the Imperial Army, stepped forward reluctantly. "Your Majesty, our ground forces are also affected. Their vehicles won't start. Their weapons won't fire. Even their communication equipment is dead." "Everything?" The Emperor's voice was barely a whisper. "Everything that contains computer components, Your Majesty, which is everything modern armies use." Emperor Valdos walked to the great window of his throne room, looking out over the imperial capital. The city stretched to the horizon, filled with magnificent buildings and bustling with activity. Except today it wasn't bustling. The flying cars weren't flying. The transport systems had stopped. Even the lights were dimmer than usual. "Are they attacking our people?" he asked. "No, Your Majesty," replied General Voxmar. "Citizens are safe. Basic services still work. Food distribution continues. Medical care is available. But nothing military functions. It's like they've selectively disabled only our ability to make war." A new voice spoke from the throne room's communication system. "That's exactly what we did." Everyone spun around looking for the source. The voice was speaking perfect Valdorian, but the accent was strange. "Who dares speak uninvited in the Imperial throne room?" shouted Emperor Valdos. "This is Captain Jennifer Martinez of the Terran Space Navy." The voice replied cheerfully. "I'm calling to discuss the transition of government in your territories." "Transition?" The Emperor was confused. "What transition?" "Your empire is being dissolved, Your Majesty. Effective immediately. All conquered territories are being returned to their original inhabitants. All enslaved populations are being freed. All Imperial military forces are being disbanded. Emperor Valdos laughed, a sound with no humor in it. You think you can dissolve the Valdorian Empire? We rule 1,000 worlds. We have conquered every species that challenged us. Had, Captain Martinez corrected gently. You had those things. Now you have a small number of Valdorian worlds and the opportunity to learn how to be peaceful neighbors instead of galactic bullies. This is an act of war, the Emperor declared. The Empire will never surrender. Your Majesty, the voice said patiently, the Empire surrendered 50 years ago when you started depending on our technology. You just didn't know it. And calling this a war is a bit silly when one side can't even start their vehicles. Council leader Vexitari stepped closer to the communication system. What do you want from us? Resources? Tribute? Territory? We want you to stop conquering other people and enslaving them, Captain Martinez replied. That's it. Live peacefully on your own worlds, trade fairly with your neighbors, and stop being bullies. It's really not complicated. Emperor Valdos felt his world crashing down. You're destroying everything we built. The Empire took centuries to create. Your empire was built on the suffering of others, the human voice said, no longer cheerful. It needed to be destroyed. But we're not destroying your people or your culture. We're just stopping you from hurting others. General Voxmar asked the question everyone was thinking. What if we refuse? What if we find ways to fight back? Then we'll stop you again, Captain Martinez said simply.
Your Majesty, we've been watching your empire for decades.
We know how it works. We know how it thinks. We prepared for every possible response you might have. There is no way for you to fight back because every tool you might use was built with our technology. The throne room fell silent. Emperor Valdos stared out the window at his powerless capital. Finally he spoke. You've won. What happens now? Now you have a choice, Captain Martinez replied. You can spend your time being angry about losing your empire and plotting revenge that will never work. Or you can learn to be better people and build a better society. We're hoping you'll choose the second option. And if we choose the first, then you'll sit in your cities with broken technology, getting angrier and angrier while everyone else in the galaxy moves on without you. But your children might choose differently. Science advisor Colmeth spoke up. These humans, how advanced are they really? Advanced enough that we never considered your empire a real threat, Captain Martinez answered. This entire operation was handled by what we call our Junior Diplomatic Corps, basically our practice team. Emperor Valdos felt the final blow to his pride. You conquered the greatest empire in galactic history with your second-string diplomats? We didn't conquer anything, Your Majesty. We just took out the trash. The galaxy is a cleaner place now. The communication system went quiet. Emperor Valdos stood in his throne room, surrounded by the treasures of 1,000 worlds, ruler of an empire that no longer existed. Outside, his capital city sat powerless, its weapons silent, its fleets grounded. What do we do now? Asked Zektul quietly. Emperor Valdos looked around at his council, these proud Valdorians who had ruled the galaxy just hours before. I suppose, he said slowly, we learn how to be ordinary people instead of emperors. For the first time in centuries, the Valdorian Empire was at peace. Not because they had won, but because they no longer had the power to make war. And in the ruins of their conquests, 1 billion enslaved beings looked up at the sky and realized they were finally free. 2 years had passed since the day the Valdorian Empire fell. Admiral Kethavar sat in a small classroom on Earth, looking out at a view he had never expected to see. Rolling green hills, blue skies, and a yellow sun that provided warmth without the artificial climate control he was used to. Today we're going to discuss the difference between leadership and bullying, said Dr. Sarah Kim, his human instructor. Around the table sat 12 other former Imperial officers, all part of what the humans called their rehabilitation program. Admiral Kethvar had learned much in 2 years. He learned that the humans had not been lying when they said they wanted to help people become better. The program was voluntary. Any Valdorian could leave at any time. But those who stayed learned things that the Empire had never taught. Admiral, Dr. Kim said gently, you look troubled today. What's on your mind? I was thinking about my last conversation with Emperor Valdos, Kethavar replied. He chose to stay on the homeworld with the others who refused to accept what happened. He still believes the Empire will rise again. And what do you believe? Kethavar looked around the room at his fellow students. I believe we were fools. We thought conquering others made us strong, but it only made us weak and lazy. We depended on slave labor instead of innovation. We used fear instead of cooperation. When you removed our weapons, we had nothing left. Dr. Kim nodded. That's a hard lesson to learn. How does it feel to understand that? Humbling, the Admiral admitted. But also freeing? I spent 40 years conquering worlds and forcing people to obey. I never realized how much time I wasted on pointless cruelty. Another student, former General Zex Khan, spoke up. What I don't understand is why you humans helped us at all. We were your enemies. We came to conquer your world. Why didn't you just destroy us? Dr. Kim smiled. Because destroying enemies doesn't solve the problem that created them. The Valdorian Empire existed because your people learned to solve problems with violence. If we had destroyed you violently, we would have just proven that violence works. But you did use violence, protested Zexkan. You took control of our ships. You disabled our weapons. We used the minimum force necessary to stop you from hurting others, Dr. Kim corrected. That's very different from violence for its own sake. We didn't hurt anyone. We just took away your toys until you could learn to play nicely. Admiral Kethvar had heard this explanation before, but it still amazed him. The humans had conquered the greatest empire in galactic history, and they called it taking away toys. Dr. Kim, he said, there's something I need to ask. Something that's been bothering me since I arrived here. Go ahead. How long have you been planning this? The infiltration of our technology, the hidden control systems, all of it. How long did it take to prepare? Dr. Kim looked thoughtful. The planning started about 70 years ago, when we first detected signs of the Empire. The actual preparation took about 50 years. But Admiral, you're asking the wrong question. What's the right question? The right question is, how did we know we would need to do this at all? Admiral Kethvar frowned. I don't understand. Dr. Kim stood up and walked to the window. Admiral, how many species do you think develop space travel in this galaxy? I don't know. Thousands? Millions, Dr. Kim corrected. Every year, thousands of new species take their first steps into space. Most of them are peaceful. They explore, they trade, they make friends with their neighbors. But some become like the Valdorian Empire. She turned back to face the class. About once every few centuries, a species develops advanced technology and decides to use it to conquer others. They build empires based on slavery and fear. They spread across the galaxy like a disease. And you stop them, asked Zexkan, when necessary. Though usually we don't have to. Most bullies destroy themselves eventually. The Valdorian Empire just lasted longer than most. Admiral Kethvar felt a chill. You're saying there have been others? Other empires like ours? Oh yes. The Tiketh Dominion about 400 years ago. The Crystal Hierarchy before that. The Machine Collective before them. All gone now. You destroyed them all? Dr. Kim shook her head. We helped them grow up. Just like we're helping you. Some chose to learn and become better people. Others chose to stay angry and eventually faded away. The choice is always theirs. The classroom fell silent. Admiral Kethvar tried to process what he was learning. How old is human civilization, really? Old enough, Dr. Kim said simply. We've been traveling the galaxy for a very long time. We've seen the same pattern repeat over and over. Young species discover space travel. Some become peaceful traders, others become galactic bullies. We watch, we prepare, and when necessary, we intervene. But your planet, protested Zexkan. We scanned it. You looked primitive. No advanced technology visible. Dr. Kim laughed. Did you really think we would put our best technology where hostile aliens could see it? Earth is our home, not our military base. We keep it looking peaceful because it is peaceful. Our children live there. Our families live there. Why would we turn it into a fortress? Admiral Kethvar understood now. You were never in danger. When my fleet arrived, you were never at risk of being conquered. No more than you were at risk of being conquered by ants in your garden, Dr. Kim agreed. Though ants can be quite clever when they need to be. The Admiral winced at the comparison. We were the ants in this story. You were bullies who thought they were conquerors, Dr. Kim corrected gently. There's a difference. Ants work together and build useful things. You just took what others had built. A young human entered the classroom and whispered something to Dr. Kim. She nodded and turned back to the class. I'm afraid I have to cut today's lesson short. We've detected another expanding empire in the Andromeda Galaxy, the Zephon Collective. They've started enslaving their neighbors. Admiral Kethvar felt a mix of curiosity and dread. Will you stop them too? If necessary. We're hoping they'll listen to reason. We're sending them the same message we sent you. We are here. We wish to talk. And if they don't listen? Dr. Kim smiled, but there was something cold in her eyes. Then they'll learn the same lesson you did. That space belongs to everyone, not just the species with the biggest weapons. She gathered her materials and headed for the door. Class dismissed. Practice your cooperation exercises. Remember, the goal is to solve problems together, not to dominate each other. After she left, Admiral Kethvar sat quietly with his thoughts. Outside the window, human children played in the grass while their parents watched peacefully. It looked so normal, so innocent. But now he knew the truth. Earth was not just a planet. It was the beating heart of a galactic peacekeeping force that had been protecting civilized species for millennia. The humans didn't rule the galaxy. They gardened it, quietly removing the weeds that threatened the peaceful growth of others. Former General Zexcon broke the silence. Do you think they're right? About us being bullies instead of conquerors? Admiral Kethvar considered the question. Look around you, Zexcon. We're sitting in a classroom learning how to be better people. Our empire is gone, but we're still alive. Our families are safe. Our worlds are peaceful. If they had wanted to destroy us, we would be dead. If they had wanted to conquer us, we would be slaves. Then what are we now? Students, the Admiral replied. Learning how to live without hurting others. Learning how to be worthy of the freedom they gave us. He stood up and walked to the window, looking up at the blue sky. Somewhere beyond that sky, the humans were sending another message to another empire. We are here. We wish to talk. Some would listen. Others would make the same mistake the Valdorians had made, assuming that peaceful words meant weakness. And when they did, they would learn why Terran space was forbidden, not because humans would destroy them, but because everything else already belonged to humanity's quiet, patient, unstoppable garden of peace. The galaxy was vast, but it was not empty. It was watched over by gardeners who preferred cooperation to conquest, and who had the power to enforce that preference when necessary. Admiral Kethvar smiled and headed home to write another letter to Emperor Valdos, hoping that someday his old leader would choose to learn rather than remain angry. After all, the humans had taught him that there was always hope for people who were willing to grow.